Hello everyone, in this video I'll be breaking down the 10 biggest changes coming to Baldur's Gate 3 in patch 8. Now, patch 8 is bringing us 12 new subclasses, 5 new spells, photo mode, and crossplay, but I'll be breaking down what I think to be the biggest changes coming to the game for the future of Baldur's Gate 3. Now, the Hexblade Warlock is actually a huge change to Baldur's Gate 3 because this can give us charisma scaling on a weapon for just a single level dip. Previously, the best single level dip in the game was the War Cleric, which will give you 3 bonus action attacks, but I think that the Hexblade gives it a good run for its money, because if you're taking something like a Paladin or a Bard, you can actually give yourself the ability to use just charisma for your weapon attack rolls, which is massive. In addition, this also gives you the Hexblade's Curse, which will give you a +4 to your damage, as well as increased critical hit chance against the target. And it also gives you the shield spell, which is a very useful spell to have on a variety of different classes. Now, I think that this is massive for a number of reasons. So, first and foremost, the Paladin gets a new subclass, and it's pretty powerful too. We'll be talking about that a bit later, because it is a meta-changing subclass with the Crown Paladin. But one of the best ways to build about that is going to level 11, because the Paladin gets the improved Divine Smite, adding radiant damage to all of its weapon attacks. It doesn't have to be a smite, it'll just literally do an additional 1d8 of radiant damage on its attacks. 11 levels, and then you can literally take a single level of the Hexblade Warlock. This will give you the shield spell, which will greatly boost your overall defensiveness, and it'll also give you the ability to use charisma, so you can just fully scale in on charisma, making you a very powerful paladin. And I actually think it's better to forego your final feat if you're a paladin and take the Hexblade Warlock. In addition, you can also, if you're a bard, go to level 10, take 2 levels of the Hexblade Warlock. You get yourself a nice cantrip, with obviously Eldritch Blast being one of the nice ones, and also Booming Blade. We'll get into that. But then the bard can also get itself the charisma scaling on its weapon, and then going to level 2 allows you to take something like Devil's Sight, so you can hide out in darkness. It actually becomes quite crazy when you combine all these things together, but the Hexblade Warlock is making things a lot different for the charisma-based classes. It's also nice too, because if you wanted to play a fighter, but you wanted to have really high charisma because you're the face of the party, you can take a single level of the Hexblade and then add that to the fighter. What's cool about that is then you get charisma scaling on your weapons, and once your Hexblade Warlock, or once your fighter gets to level 11, it still gets 3 attacks, and you get to use charisma for it. So this is changing the game. I think that this is going to be the best Warlock subclass in the game. It's very, very fun too. The Hexblade's Curse being nice. Even if you go, like, well, I'm just talking about single level dips here, but the Hexblade also gets the ability to summon a cursed specter, and you get the Armor of Hexes, which can give you a 50% chance of not getting hit. So this subclass in general is going to be probably the best single level dip for most charisma based classes, and a very new way to shake up the meta. I think that this is awesome, so I just wanted to talk about this one first because it's quite huge. But the next thing, number 2, that I want to talk about is Booming Blade. This is massive for a variety of reasons. So, Booming Blade is a cantrip. You can trigger their weapon, afflicting your foe with a resonance that hurts them for 1d4 of thunder damage when they move. Where this becomes crazy is with a Eldritch Knight fighter. It also is crazy with the Hexblade Warlock. It's actually a lot of classes where it becomes crazy, but the Eldritch Knight. What's nice about the Eldritch Knight is the Booming Blade is part of its weapons choices, so you get your normal weapon damage plus that additional thunder damage. This does scale up. We also got Bursting Sinew, which is not really a game changer. It's kind of funny, but not as powerful as our Booming Blade is, which I'll be getting to, showing you how to make the most out of this. Now, the thing previously, whenever we had the Eldritch Knight, it was a throwing build. The Eldritch Knight may not be the best thrower anymore, which I'll also be getting to. This ends up providing some nice options for damage. If you're a level 7 Eldritch Knight, you get the War Magic. So after you cast a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack using a bonus action. So normally you'd be able to do 2 attacks at level 7, but now you can do a cantrip attack, Booming Blade, which will do extra damage, and then do a normal weapon attack, kind of similar to what you'd normally be doing, which, what's nice about this is it makes it so the Eldritch Knight doesn't have to just throw to be its most effective form. As you can see, Booming Blade does a lot of damage. So here, 2d6 plus 19 slashing damage, and then a 2d8 of thunder. This is using Baldur and Giant Slayer right here, which is a powerful weapon in its own right. But you can see, and then when they move, they can take 3 to 24 thunder damage every time they move. So, or when they move. This becomes pretty crazy. So the Eldritch Knight actually is a little bit different now, because you can use this to be not just a thrower, but a actual weapon attacker. So this opens things up for the Eldritch Knight to be very cool. And also the Booming Blade has that awesome attack animation there. It creates that big whirlwind around the character. and then every time that the character moves, they will take damage. And yeah, you see that it downed Gale there. So this makes them very, very strong. And you can also go ahead with like a shove, which will make them end up taking that force damage or thunder damage. So yeah, I think Booming Blade's going to rechange the meta, because getting yourself a weapon attack roll cantrip does change things. It's actually some different mod creators I was talking to. This creates issues with mods, because this is a cantrip that targets can get, and it literally can just be a single level dip in the Hexblade Wizard or Hexblade Warlock, and you get this Booming Blade cantrip which interacts as a cantrip, making it very, very powerful. And I think this is going to change the meta of Baldur's Gate 3 big time. But speaking of how the Eldritch Knight is a thrower, we actually got another huge change here. There's a new class on the block here with the Giant Barbarian. This is actually a very interesting throwing class, because previously the Eldritch Knight will make it so that the weapon returns to your hand. You can throw anything. However, weapons that have the thrown property will make it so that their damage is applied to the attack. This changes things, because now the Giant Barbarian can make you apply the thrown tag to any character that you, or any weapon that you want. The Giant Barbarian also has a Spartan kick here, the boot of the Giants, allowing you to kick away a target as a bonus action. But the big thing here is at level 6, once you get the Elemental Cleaver. So this channels primordial rights into your weapon. Whenever you're raging, you can deal additional acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. What's cool about this is it will proc any of the abilities. So if you have like the Snowburst ring and you do a cold application to your weapon, it's going to create ice surfaces below the enemies. And this also applies for many of the other abilities in the game. But the big thing here is it adds a thrown property to the weapon, so it'll also reappear magically in your hand. This is a better version of the weapon bond that the Eldritch Knight gets. So what's very nice about this is, let's say you have the Baldur and Giant Slayer. Previously, if you threw this, it would just do like a 1d4 damage, not very much damage, and no real reason to throw it. You'd be basically just better off throwing Nirolna or the Returning Pike or any of the other thrown weapons, daggers, things like that. This makes it so that whenever you throw it, it'll do the 2d6 of damage that the weapon has, making it a much more offensive choice. So this is cool, because this opens things up. Now you can throw anything in the game and not have to worry about it being, you know, a bad option overall, because if you threw Baldur and Giant Slayer normally, not really doing too much. So this is a huge change overall. I'm excited to see that, because I think that that's just going to open up a bunch of new builds and make for some fun new ways to play the game. But speaking of builds that we can put together, there's a new Radiating Orb build that I think is extremely powerful. I've seen people say the Oath of the Crown is very underwhelming, and I actually disagree. This gives you a couple of really nice spells that you normally can't get as a paladin, with Spirit Guardians and the Spiritual Weapon. So we also get the Righteous Cleric adding proficiency bonus to attack rolls, so it's a nice +4 to attack rolls on a target or yourself. But the big thing here is you become a very defensive focused class. So Radiating Orbs, if you don't know, there's a lot of gear in Act 1 that allows you to apply Radiating Orbs. Every Radiating Orb stack gives a -1 to attack rolls, and you can get up to 10 stacks on an enemy. So at -10 to attack rolls is basically giving your whole team a +10 to their armor class against that target. Very nice. This also gets the Champion Challenge. You can challenge all enemies around you to attack you and you only. Any attacks that might be made against other targets will have disadvantage, meaning they're much more likely to miss. This is a 9-meter radius. It's actually a huge ability as a bonus action. And we also turn the tides, which we can heal with. So we're defensive as heck. But the big thing here is all the extra Radiating Orbs that we can apply, which I'll show you in just a second here. So level 5, you get Spiritual Weapon. This is nice because you can summon in a Maul, and whenever there's a Maul, it can daze targets, making them weak against or get disadvantage on wisdom saves. So command and hold person are common wisdom saves. You'll be much more likely to land them there. Obviously, Aura Protection, giving your charisma saves to, or charisma modifier to saving throws, which will help out with your team's preventing getting hit by spells. There's also the Divine Allegiance. Whenever an ally within 1.5 meters of you takes damage, you can substitute your own health for your allies so that they don't get hit. So this is perfect to stand beside your wizard and keep them safe. And then at level 9, you get Spirit Guardians. So with the gear, Radiating Orb style, we can have Spirit Guardians up, which will apply 2 stacks of Radiating Orbs. And then we can go in and do different weapon attacks, which will further stack up our radiant damage. Divine Smite being one of them. You also get like Blinding Smite, but Divine Smite's going to be the best one. And here, to improve Divine Smite, there's a lot of misconceptions around this. This makes it so your weapon attacks will deal additional 1d8 of radiant damage. Yes, it's called Improved Divine Smite. It doesn't mean your Divine Smites will get that damage. It means actually every single weapon attack. I've had so many people try to argue with me about this before, but you can see here as we look at our main weapon attack, it now has a 1d8 of radiant damage. So with our Radiating Orb gear, we can now literally stack up Radiating Orbs by just doing weapon attacks. So with the luminous armor here, when the wearer deals radiant damage, they create a radiant shockwave. You can set up radiant orbs with that. There's also a lot of gear actually that'll apply radiating orbs. So if we're to look at our coruscation ring, whenever the wearer deals damage is well illuminated by a light source, or also inflict radiating orb upon a target. Radiating orbs count as light. If also Nirelna and being out in sunlight can give you that. And there's also there's a bunch of other gear. Like here, when the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 2 turns of radiating orbs. So applying all of that together, you can actually stack up a ton of radiating orbs. If you want to go above and beyond with that, there's actually another weapon, the Sacred Star, which will give 1 turn of radiating orbs whenever you do a weapon attack. So all that extra radiant damage can literally stack up like 10 stacks of radiating orbs if you just go up and weapon attack a target. It becomes crazy because, as I mentioned, it's almost like giving a +10 armor class to your entire team. This is the most defensive class now in the game, I believe. So from all my testing, I seriously think this may be, usually it was the light cleric that was the best at applying radiating orbs. Now I think there's a new sheriff in town, and that is the Crown Paladin. So speaking of the light cleric no longer being the best radiating orb class in the game, there's actually now a best necrotic damage class in the game, because let's just face it, necrotic damage is pretty garbage. But with this, you can do your necrotic cantrips, so necromancy cantrips, on 2 targets instead of 1, which is nice. So you can apply Toll the Dead on 2 targets. I would recommend for taking our cantrips that we actually go with something like the Bursting Sinew or Bone Chill here, and then you can actually just take Toll the Dead and Bursting Sinew here as your normal cantrips. So you can actually get all 3 of them here all at once. You can actually do 2 Bursting Sinew, so you can explode 2 corpses at a time, Toll the Dead. But the big thing is, with the Death Domain, you can actually ignore resistances to necrotic damage, which is the most resisted damage type in the entire game. You also get the Channel Divinity Touch of Death when you hit a creature with a melee attack and use your Channel Divinity to deal an additional necrotic damage. Now, there's a little cool thing about this. People, it sounds like melee attack. Actually, Inflict Wounds is a melee attack. It uses an attack roll. So this that does 3d10 necrotic damage can do additional necrotic damage because of that, which I think is awesome. We also get Vampiric Touch and the Animate Dead spells for free. Vampiric Touch we normally don't get. It's a nice little ability to heal yourself. And then at level 6, we get the Inescapable Destruction. Spells you cast ignore resistance to necrotic damage. What's massive about this, again, necrotic damage is resisted by pretty much everyone, especially in Act 2, which you'll likely hit at level 6. This also makes Blight a much better spell. This typically is not a great level 4 spell. Now it is. So this is awesome because this can make Blight actually feel impactful in the game. 8d8 necrotic damage. You also get the Divine Strike Necrotic, which will do additional necrotic damage. A nice little thing about this too is if you have hand crossbows and you use your bonus action offhand attack, you can trigger the Divine Strike on an offhand crossbow attack. So just a little pro tip there. We also get Cloud Kill, which, fun fact, if you got you get the spell Hero's Feast, your entire team can ignore Cloud Kill because this poison damage is coded a little bit differently in the game, that whenever you resist poison, you don't get hit by Cloud Kill. So if you use Hero's Feast, you're immune to Cloud Kill, so you can just hang out in and make everyone take a bunch of damage. Now, this isn't going to be the most offensive or most OP build in the game. I just think this is worth mentioning because typically the cleric was not that amazing at, or there's no class that was amazing at doing necrotic damage. You also have the Harm spell, which actually reduces the target's health, so this is good to do at a start of combat. Don't do this later on, but I still think there's better spells like Planar Ally. So I guess all in all, the point I want to make here is we actually can play necrotic damage classes and not have them suck. It's great. The next one I want to point out is photo mode. Now, he expected this to be here. This is a pretty big change. I love photo modes in games, like Cyberpunk's an amazing one, Spider-Man 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, some of the best photo modes in gaming. Now, I actually think that this is one of the other best ones in gaming. So just to show off a few of the different settings we can do, we can make our character look at the camera here. You get different poses. Now, these are really cool. You can make it so that they dance. There's a lot of different dance moves you can get your character to do. Like, it's actually pretty funny how much customization there is with the overall dancing. Like, you can do a wide variety of different dances here. It's awesome. Now, you don't even have to just do dancing. There's some like dramatic poses here, so you can get hilarious with how these poses look. Some of them are even references to other mediums of like entertainment. So that in itself is awesome. Being able to have your character do a big flex, as funny as it looks, you can do that. And you can see the character's face is following mine around. So you got like flexing, blowing a kiss. You can make your characters do that. You can make them do kata. So literally you can get the Ginyu Force going here. If you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, this is perfect for you. And then also there's some other cool ones like, oh no, the monk. The monk has some cool ones. Another, if you're a really big Dragon Ball Z fan, you got Kamehameha or Hadouken. So huge for, again, a variety of reasons. You can literally make your characters wear outfits that look similar to that. You got spell casting, how the different characters do their spell casting, the lifted abilities, you name it, you can probably do it in here. There's so much different stuff, and that's what I think makes it amazing. So yeah, I can't wait to see all the different creations that people come up with in Baldur's Gate 3 with all these amazing new ways to take photos. And that's not even to mention like all the different filters, the framing. You can add stickers, and the stickers are hilarious. Like you got Gale winking there, you got Jahara, you have all the different subclasses with some, it looks very contrasty for some reason. You got Christmassy ones, you got different Halsin, hear no evil, see no evil. This cursed Gale laugh, I can't stop pointing this one out. This one is hilarious. I literally think this is the funniest thing ever. Why they made it look like this, I don't know, but it reminds me of One Piece, so I think in that, right, it's pretty funny. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in photo mode, which makes it, personally, I think one of the best photo modes that we've ever seen. So yeah, you even got the memes. I was right there. The smirking bear, the shock squirrel, the sitting badger. They embrace the memes. It's perfect. Like, you got so much options here. You even got the One Piece wanted photos, so you can literally make your photos look the way you want them. It's amazing. So yeah, photo mode, very, very nice. And another thing, crossplay. This is huge. This is one of the first times that we got crossplay to work properly in a game with mods. That was what took it a little bit of time to get ready. So you can play with your friends. Now, just a few caveats I want to mention quickly here. So with crossplay, you have to have the same mods installed if you're going to be playing with mods. Some people don't play with mods, full respect. I love mods. So you have to use console only mods if you're going to play crossplay, because if crossplay implies one of them is going to be on a console. So with that, I do videos every single week whenever new console mods come out. So you can see if those, you can subscribe if you want to see whenever there's new console mods coming out, because I always cover those the day of and a few hours upon their release. The big thing about this is you can play with like whatever mods you want that are approved on console, which there's actually quite a few of them. There's actually some anime ones, there's some lightsabers, you got different armor, a bunch of different subclasses. So if you want to mod and play crossplay, it works. It definitely works. There are some issues like with MPUI right now, so you can't unfortunately use that, but hopefully those will get ironed out as patch 8 gets released. But yeah, I think photo mode does bring a lot of value to the game, or crossplay brings a lot of value to the game. I have friends that play on PlayStation 5. I play on PlayStation 5, but also play on PC. I primarily prefer playing on PC after putting in like 800 hours on both. I generally just like playing with a keyboard and mouse so much more. So this is perfect for everyone that's, you know, some people just have a console. Some people don't want to buy a gaming PC. This is great because now you can play with your friends. And there's nothing better than enjoying this game with your friends. So yeah, if you have any questions around crossplay, I'll do my best to answer them, but that's a pretty big change. So yeah, I think crossplay is awesome. And we got ourselves a new 3-level dip that can actually really enhance a lot of classes with the Swarmkeeper Ranger. Now, the Ranger itself is quite underwhelming in every medium of D&D. However, this one is interesting because you can take a Gathered Swarm. Now, you got the Legion of Bees here, which will do additional piercing damage and push the target, and teleport you to a safer area. Lightning damage can shock targets and do lightning damage. My personal favorite, the Flurry of Moths. This can do a little bit of psychic damage and blind your targets. So for a 3-level dip, you can actually get all of this, and you can also deal additional damage to targets that are marked with your Hunter's Mark, which is a ranger spell that you can take. Not to mention the cool particle effects that surround your characters remind me of Psylocke. But what you can do is whenever you go to do your weapon attack, it's going to have, we got our Luck of the Far Realms there, but we have a few different things. So we can use our Flurry of Moths to do 1d6 psychic damage. Now, actually 3 things here. Piercing damage can be doubled by the Ballast Armor. Lightning damage can be doubled by Create Water. And psychic damage can be doubled by using the Resonance Stone. So you can double all 3 of these damage types, which is kind of cool. So that 1d6 will scale upwards to 2d6. You can also use your Swarm to blind targets. So for a single level 3 dip, you can have a free blind whenever you do weapon attacks. Or you can use your Swarm to teleport you to a near area. So you got the free Flurry of Moths teleport. It only has a 5-meter radius, but you can use that to zip, zap, zoop, and get your way out of there. But I love the ability to just go ahead, attack, and then whenever you attack, you can do your Flurry of Moths, and they'll do additional psychic damage. So yeah, it's nice. Just getting the ability to do a little bit extra damage with your weapon attacks. I think that's a nice change. Even further, if you go higher in levels, you can use your Swarm to fly you around. They'll do additional damage. You can change your Swarm at every few levels. It also just looks really cool seeing all these little moths and butterflies and jellyfish fly around your character. So with that, I actually think that the the Swarmkeeper Ranger will be a very fun addition, and I'm curious to see how this will add up, because let's say you add the Monk. You can do Monk attacks and then add Psychic Thunder or blind your target. You can do a whole lot with it, which I think makes for some very interesting combinations. Now, the Ranger again, Gloomstalker, 3-level dip, probably the best 3-level dip that you could add to your character, but hey, this is something new, and it's got these cool, like if you just want to hang out with your butterfly friends, you got their moth friends, I should say, you can do that as well. Now, the Blade Singing Wizard actually adds a very large change to the game. Now, previously, the Abjuration Wizard with its Arcane Ward, you can actually cheese the game kind of with this and make it very powerful by running around, getting your Arcane Ward stacks up, and then using Armor of Agathis to do a bunch of cold damage to targets by just running around and proccing opportunity attacks. That was the previous best wizard subclass. Now, I actually think the Blade Singing Wizard is going to be the best subclass for most people, and here's why. The Blade Singing Wizard is straightforward in its application. You get yourself the Blade Song, which you can apply to give yourself a +2 bonus to your armor class. Your movement speed will increase 3 meters, and you gain advantage on acrobatics and +2 to Constitution saving throws, which is nice because that means you're going to be much more likely to hold concentration on your spells. Now, where this becomes crazy is this opens things up for a wide variety of different builds. So you can choose a different type of weapon here, and with that weapon, it's going to give you different animations. The animations look cool. Now, the wizard itself is mostly a spellcaster, but this gives you options to do both. It also gets a free extra attack at level 6, so you can do 2 attacks per action. You also get the Song of Defense, which is interesting. So whenever you get hit while you're in your Blade Song, you can expend a spell slot to subtract 5 times that spell slot's level. So if you, for some reason, wanted to just reduce 30 damage, you could use a level 6 spell slot. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but even like a level 3 to reduce 15 damage is kind of nice. This makes you much more tanky as a wizard. Now, why I think this is so game-changing is because the Duelist Prerogative almost feels like it was made for this, because whenever you don't have anything in your offhand, which you can't whenever you want to apply the Blade Song, you get yourself a additional reaction, and you get a free 5% increase your critical hit chance. So what's massive about that is the wizard also gets counter spells. So you can apply the Blade Song, which you can't have a shield to use. This just gives you a +2 to armor class, basically as if you had a shield. Now, another cool thing is you could go ahead with like wearing the Robe of the Weaves. I'm wearing just a clothing option there. This is actually the Tactical Dress mod by Skirby, amazing mod. But what's cool is you can actually go ahead, and this gives the Bracer to Defense also a nice bonus, because this is only if you're wearing clothing and you're not wearing armor or a shield. So we're not wearing a shield, we get a nice +2 to armor class. Now, the big thing about this is it gives us a very nice ability. So we got Booming Blade, which is strong. We get 2 reactions, so we can do 2 counter spells per turn. This becomes very crazy very quickly. So you also get the cool attack animations. So that's one of them, but my favorite is just the main hand attack here. So you do this cool little backhand flick with a leg kick. It looks amazing. So yeah, this is just style points aside. New animations for modders as well. So that's a nice little thing I just want to point out there as well. But the Blade Singing Wizard is actually such a massive change to the game, because this makes the wizard actually like a melee class. It looks cool. They also will cast their spells using their sword. So I'm sorry, Karlak, you're resistant to fire though. You can literally go ahead and use this to cast spells, which looks amazing. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this because it's just a huge change to how the wizard normally works. You also get the Blade Song Climax, which can heal. Yeah, there's a whole lot that you can do with this. What's also nice, there's a bonus action attack. So if you're using this, you can literally use the Duelist Prerogative, get 3 attacks per turn, or cast a spell. There's a lot of fun to be had with the Blade Singing Warlock. Wizard. Alrighty, Swashbuckler. So this is actually going to be adding some nice stuff to the game. Now, the Rogue, not the strongest subclass, or not the strongest class in the game. The Thief is nice because you get that extra bonus action. The Assassin's great for the first turn burst, but the Swashbuckler gives you some cool different things. So fancy footwork, if you do an attack, you can't get hit with an opportunity attack. That's quite nice. You can move around freely with that. You also get the Rakish Audacity, giving a +2 to initiative rolls, which will scale with your rogue level, and you also no longer need advantage to trigger sneak attack. So you can get your sneak attack off much more freely with this, and that's once per turn you can do sneak attacks. This makes it a great multi-class, but the big thing is the level 4 options that you got here. So you get the Dirty Trick Flick of the Wrist, which will do you basically flick your weapon at the target, possibly disarming them. As a bonus action, that's nice. It does your weapon damage. You also get the Vicious Mockery Cantrip, giving disadvantage on the next attack roll, and the Pocket Sand. You can throw dirt in their eye with a Sand Toss Dirty Trick. So Pocket Sand, hit them with the King of the Hill reference. But with this, what's nice about it is it's a 4-level dip. So that means you get a feat, and then you could take 8 levels of another class and get another 2 feats. So it's a nice even split compared to some of the other ones here. But you can see the flick of the wrist is really nice because it's going to give you that additional weapon damage. So normally we got the 13 to 23 damage. With the flick of the wrist, 13 to 23 damage. So paired with another class, you can get another class that gives you 2 attacks. You can do attack, and then bonus action, flick of the wrist, and disarm the target, which is really nice. So sorry, Gale, I want your weapon. Mink, you can hit him with it and take the weapon from him. So it unfortunately just made Gale pass out. But yeah, what's nice about this is it's actually a pretty decent 4-level dip. And again, I mentioned it's great because that means you're not sacrificing any feats by taking like 3 levels and 9 levels of something else. So there's a lot of cool ways to build around this. You also get the rakish sneak attacks here, which will give you an advantage. If you attack a foe that you have advantage on, you deal additional damage. What's nice too about that is 2d6 extra damage, which can be doubled if you have the ballast armor, so making it actually pretty offensive. So those are the 10 biggest changes coming to Baldur's Gate 3 in patch 8. To sum it all up, Hexblade Warlock giving you not only a new spell with staggering smite, but charisma scaling on your weapons. So the single level dip, great. Booming Blade, which is a very effective cantrip, dealing a ton of extra damage, and this works for making the Eldritch Knight much more powerful, but also every class that gets it. So like your Warlock, your Wizard, your multi-class Paladin, you name it, it's getting a lot stronger. The Eldritch Knight benefiting the most from this. You can now throw any weapon in the game, so if you wanted to throw something that's not Nyrulna in Act 3, go right ahead. You can throw Baldur and Giant Slayer and not have to worry. You can throw a giant maul at targets, so if you just want to throw hammer like you're literally Thor, go right ahead. Now you can do it without sacrificing any damage. The Crown Paladin, this becomes the best Radiating Orb build in the game, also the best tank in the game, so that adds a lot because you can take away from your teammates getting attacked by enemies. The Death Domain Cleric actually makes necrotic damage good for once in this game, especially into when you hit level 6, which is likely around Act 2. You're not going to suffer in Act 2 with everything that resists necrotic damage. Photo mode, crossplay, need I say anymore? Those are 2 massive changes. I love photo modes, and crossplay with mods is one of the craziest things. So shouts out to Larian for pulling that off. We also got ourselves the Blade Singing Wizard, bringing all the fun and joy that comes with the Blade Singing Wizard. The Swashbuckler Rogue, which adds the dirty tricks here. So you got your Pocket Sand, you got your disarming strikes, you got everything there. And then the Swarm Keeper, adding extra weapon damage to attacks. I think that that's really awesome. So all in all, these 10 new changes are massive, and I didn't even get to covering, like, we got all these new subclasses here that I didn't even talk about, like the Drunken Master Monk, which I think is going to be the coolest role-playing class in the game, because with the Drunken Master, you can drink alcohol, get your key points back, and you also get some very cool animations where you smash bottles into their head. The College of Glamour is pretty cool. The Circle of Stars Druid, getting some bonus action radiant damage, which has amazing animations as well. The Arcane Archer Fighter, which makes a true archer with a bit of magical attacks there. And then we got like other subclasses. The Shadow Magic Sorcerer is my favorite subclass. I didn't even mention them once in this video. The dog that you get from that is super cool, but yeah, you got all of those coming. We got Staggering Smite, Booming Blade, Bursting Sinew, Toll the Dead, and Shadow Blade spells. So patch 8 is going to be massive in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited for, and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. I'll see you all in the next video, and have yourself a great day.